This is RFD Today, a daily look at the key topics impacting rural Illinois. If you live in Illinois, we examine the issues impacting you, your income, and your community. Here's your host for today's program, Bill Yankee.
Hey, good Wednesday to you, Illinois. Thanks for joining us for this adventure in broadcasting on the 17th of April. Seeing some field work pictures and videos on social media and seeing some folks that are still plenty soaked, and rain coming for a good portion of the state, especially in the southern part of the state, tonight into tomorrow. On the program today, Illinois Farm Bureau President Rich Giebert will talk about several state and a couple of federal issues as well. David Powell and Rhett Stolte with GrowMark Agronomy, Weed Science Technical Managers, will also talk about controlling and burning down cover crops this year, especially if we have a couple of weeks of 70 degrees. That cereal rye could be difficult to manage. Also, Jim Bauer at Bauer Trading in our regular segment. What in the world happened yesterday? And at what point could we ever get a spring rally, do you think? Plenty to come. First, Rita, though, and a moment with Pioneer.
Paul Yoder is a field agronomist with Pioneer. He joins us this week as we talk about agronomy. Also, we think about the concerns for insects and disease. And I know that, a lot of your customers have that in the back of their head, too. The later we get, the more, concern in the lines of these two areas. Can you talk about what you think in those areas?
Absolutely. I'll focus on beans in particular from the standpoint of again, going back to last fall. There was a tremendous amount of stink bugs. There was a lot of frog eye leaf spot. There was seed decay from Phenopsis, Trichospora leaf spot, pod and stem blight. So there was a lot of diseases and pests that moved in late summer, early fall, which created a bean crop, if harvested a little bit later, especially in the production acres. If they caught one rain, for the most part, the quality seed is pretty good. If it caught that second and third rain because the moisture of the seed was a little bit too high and a lot of farmers didn't want to go out there because of that, so they waited. And because of those extra rains that hit that seed, what we found industry-wide really was Phenopsis is basically the seed decay that has created a lot of the germ problems on soybeans. So from that standpoint, it's really critical for growers to make sure you're looking at your seed tags and seeing what the germ test is for those soybeans. Because normally you can see 90% germ beans, but a lot of beans this year will be in that, 80 to maybe even 75% germ range. And so from a population standpoint, that's also something to be watching out for this coming spring as you go out there. Is if you hope to plant, say, 135,000 population, then you need to take what you hope to get for your final stand and divide that by the germ on the bag. And what that will do, Rita, is basically tell the grower what they need to set their planter at to accomplish the end result of their plant population.
Pioneer agronomist Paul Yoder with our Rita Frazier in a regular agronomy update. Welcome back to RFD Today. I'm Bill Yankee with, pleased to have in studio, Illinois Farm Bureau President Rich Giebert. Got the high water boots in the vehicle with you, or
absolutely
5 buckles or slip-ons, or what are you going with right now?
We carry them in the truck all the time for whatever may come our way, but we were fortunate. We got 2 days in the field before we got 2 inches of rain Saturday night, and, more rain expected this week. You guys were fortunate to got some snow, so... old man Winter just can't give up his grip, can he?
Well, my crop watcher this week was in Jackson County, and he mentioned a frost, and my question was, you got a frost?
Absolutely. We
got plenty of frost.
Hard frost yesterday morning.
Wow. What's the river like down there? What's everybody doing?
Slowly going down, but we're still 9 feet over flood stage. Any amount of rainfall is going to cause it to not go down very fast, or maybe increase some more. we saw, the upper Midwest got another shot of old man winter, several inches or feet of snow. So that's to come here. We're going to have 70-degree weather today and tomorrow, I guess. It's going to melt, and, everything up north goes south.
Yeah. Well, there's no place for it to soak right now, so it's just going to run.
We're saturated.
Yeah.
Saturated.
All right, let's talk state first. We'll talk some federal issues as well and some trade issues. There's a 2-week break now at the State House, but when May rolls around, there'll be a whole lot to talk about. The first thing that comes to mind is the proposals for the graduated income tax and what needs to be done still this year, because we're talking about a ballot issue and things that won't take place until 2020.
Right. Well, a week ago Friday or Thursday, I think it passed. Jake passed out of the Senate to move the graduated tax forward, different levels, but there's not much meat to what they proposed, giving the legislature the opportunity to set and change the rates as they go forward if this moves along. But this is a procedure that gets it on the ballot in November for general public to vote on where they want to change from a flat tax. Our policy calls that we support a flat tax and not this graduated income tax, and so we will oppose it going forward. We'll have a call to action coming out later this week for our members to call their senators and voice their opposition to this graduated tax moving forward. And then the following week or so after the House gets the bill, it's presented in the House, then we'll do a second call to action on the very same bill with our opposition. And at the present time, we're building coalitions with the different organizations to oppose this graduated tax moving forward.
I was going to say, you're not on an island on this, but the business community is also, you guys have been, I assume, working together on this sort of thing.
Absolutely, with the Chamber and the Tax Federation, and, the number of different organizations that oppose this graduated tax.
One of the things that's been discussed for a while, also the motor fuel tax, which hasn't been raised in Illinois for almost 30 years, and you changed policy about it, so that's starting to come toward a head.
Right. Our delegates passed a new policy that we would support a moderate increase in the motor fuel tax, hoping some dollars would come back to local communities for roads and bridges, which is desperately, needed out in our rural communities. So the board will have a conversation this week as we talk about what are our parameters within this two proposals that were put forward. Not only the two bills that have been presented will increase the motor fuel tax, but it also increases the registration fees for the different vehicles. And we'll just have to see where the conversation goes with the board and what we can or cannot support going forward. But the delegates were really strong in saying we wanted to be at the table for this conversation.
But again, there's no guarantee you would choose one over the other if neither of them are considered moderate. Then.
Correct. We just have to see where they go. The state's in desperate need of dollars for a whole host of other reasons. But we really need improvements in our infrastructure out in the rural communities.
Sure. Thinking about some D.C. issues and thinking D.C., think about trade quite a bit. The top one, USMCA. And there's so much talk about, how are we going to get a free trade agreement done if those steel and aluminum tariffs remain? So what have you been hearing about that?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to be in Indianapolis and visit with the vice president. And we said, we all told the vice president we needed a quick win. We need to get the USMCA across the finish line. He has supported, Mexico and Canada are, our neighbors and very good trading partners. Conversations are beginning this week with Japan in Washington, D.C., ongoing conversations with China, trying to button that up and get that across the finish line. And at the same time, there's going to conversations beginning with the EU on trade over there. But the EU doesn't want to talk about agriculture, so we got to find a way to to have that as a part of the conversation going forward.
Pretty protectionist. They have a lot of things to protect over there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we don't protect anything that comes over here. So, we got to find some balance going forward with these trade agreements and get them done. The other conversation we had with the vice president was to lift the tariffs on steel and aluminum to get these across the finish line. And he encouraged us to continue to visit with our congressional leadership to support the USMCA that we get this across the finish line sooner than later.
The issue with Japan, that was, we were going to be partners with Japan as part of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and there had been some discussions earlier about, well, what if we just took that framework and made it in our own bilateral? So, if that could take place, that'd be huge in livestock business and helpful for others as
Absolutely. Well. The conversation was done quite some time ago about the TPP, and so the framework is there. All we need to do is to agree and move forward and get our products into the Japanese market, which is desperately needed, particularly for beef and corn.
So usually when you're here, that means you're missing field work, but it sounds like you're not missing much.
We're not going to burn much diesel fuel this week.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Planter's prepped and all that, and just...
Well, the planter's not hooked up,
okay.
But the toolbar is, and we're doing some burn down and trying to get caught up, get some dry fertilizer on. But you got to pick your spots.
Yeah. Illinois Farm Bureau President Rich Giebert. And stay tuned. We'll have more to come. We'll talk weeds and cover crops next on RFD Today.
Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Kay Shipman connects rural routes for you. For 3 decades, Kay has delivered important news. She covers everything from legislative issues to the latest in soil and water conservation. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I love covering so many aspects of agriculture and providing readers with the facts they need to make better decisions. I also get to work with farmers and meet new people along the way.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
As you prepare for planting season, remember your neighbors. Whether you're an applicator, grower, or beekeeper, use FieldWatch to register your farm and monitor for sensitive sites around you. FieldWatch is a free, easy-to-use online mapping tool. Consulting FieldWatch is now a requirement for the over-the-top use dicamba products. Communicating with your neighbors will help you protect your farm and the environment. Don't wait. Go online to fieldwatch.com. Growing agriculture. We grow best together.
I'm Trooper Teal with Illinois State Police. As we enter spring planting season in Illinois, it is imperative to eliminate distractions in your vehicle and pay attention to the farm equipment on the roadway. At 55 miles per hour, it takes only 5 seconds to close the gap the length of a football field between you and a tractor moving 5 miles per hour. Distracted Driving Awareness Month in April is a united effort to recognize and eliminate preventable deaths from distracted driving. Join us to help save lives.
A message from the Illinois Farm Bureau and the Illinois State Police.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're going to go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you going to do? You're going to go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You got to dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Welcome back. Joining us on the program. Actually, we're going to talk weeds pretty extensively here. Red Stolte and David Powell, Growmark Agronomy Services, a couple of weed science experts, and you guys are on the road a lot of highway miles. It's wet wherever you go, isn't it? I mean, it's just a matter of how wet or, how much standing water is there going to be?
Yeah, I'd say at this point, most of our fields are at field capacity or greater. Some of them fields are standing water, especially with the previous week's or weekend's rainfall, and it looks like this rainfall is going to continue into this week. So I would say if we aren't at field capacity, we're probably going to be in several areas.
Red, you drive north, so more of the same?
Kind of David hit on it. What wasn't soaked with the snow and the rain, it's definitely going to be saturated now. I mean, it's wet pretty well all over.
One thing we have not talked about this season is what to do with cover crops. Hopefully there are plenty of folks who have had and have a good stand of cover crops, and that's going to be part of this whole process these next few weeks of what to do with them before corn or soybeans go in the ground.
Certainly, with it warming up, temperatures getting warmer, not only are the cover crops becoming more actively growing, but also the weeds. So before it gets too far, we need to think about termination ways and getting that cover crop terminated before it becomes the ultimate weed that we have to worry about later. So that's getting more calls on what do we do and different herbicide options for terminating cover crops.
Hopefully they provided some pretty good weed suppression. Mm-hmm. But if we can't get rid of them, then we've got another problem on our hands.
There are lots of benefits to cover crops besides just weed management, right? So a lot of our erodible ground, that's where a cover crop fits really well. As far as the things that I'm seeing in a field, no matter what, if there's just a cover crop out there, we still have to put broad spectrum products in the tank to help manage the other weeds that potentially may be in the field. The one thing that maybe helped us this year for managing cover crops, typically the taller they get, the more difficult they are to control. Overall, probably our most common cover crop is cereal rye. And so one of the saving graces maybe for us this spring with this wet spring was that most of the cereal rye didn't get planted till late, so it didn't get very established last fall, which means, it's greened up now. Yes, it's gone off to the races, but it's actually quite a bit shorter this year than it would have been last year at this time, just based upon the fall growth. So I've seen one of the most common things we use to manage cereal rye is glyphosate products, right? So glyphosate is good at managing cereal rye generally. I've already seen a failure, and that failure tended to happen early on. So, it happened as it was greening up. It wasn't really translocating well. The temperatures were still too cool. So right now we're getting into this period where we're getting into the 60s during the day, a lot of days. It's growing well. So now is the time to really get on it and manage it, preferably before it gets to joining. Once the cereal rye gets to joining, it gets much more difficult to control. Not saying that it's not impossible, but the rates of the herbicides that we use as well as our management strategies may change.
Well, a couple of days of mid-70 temperatures that some folks might get, and then more rain, and then 70 at Easter. So the cereal rye could really get going, the next week, couple of weeks.
Yeah, the cereal rye is definitely 2 weeks from now is going to look a lot different. From the road, we may be wondering, is that wheat, depending on the part of the state, or is that actually a cover crop in the field? So it's going to be important to manage it when we can get in there and do it right and do it well. It's not, it's a good idea to go early, but if we didn't manage it early, we're going to still have to come in with that failure. As we get further along, it's really going to be about, can we get over that field? Can we get it sprayed with the right product? And then how quickly can we get planted afterwards?
So planted afterward. So that's not a 100% post kind of scenario.
No. We always need to be cognizant of the label and the plant back restrictions, but in the northern territory now it's really starting to take off with cover crop growth. So the further south I drive, I see a lot taller, like David said, cover crops. So in that scenario, we need to get that terminated before it gets too tall, like David said, and you run the risk of a failure there.
awfully, it's one thing would love to mow it and put it in big round bales, but they can be awfully wet as well. So there are management techniques that you have to do, and you can't graze it off in this kind of time frame. And it's too wet out there. You don't want to graze it this time when it's that wet either. So we're starting to run out of time on how to get that sort of thing done.
Yeah, exactly. And I said that the reason we want to manage it before we plant in most cases is because we want to start clean. Some of our fields, we get this every year where we plant some non-GMO corn and the cereal rye. We don't get a good burn down of it. We still have some alive. We have very, very limited options at that point to manage cereal rye and non-GMO corn. So there are cases where you can definitely plant and then manage. But we do a lot more chemical control rather than a mechanical control that they may use in some areas. So it's just good to start clean to stay clean and make sure we get those residuals and those herbicides on to help us manage weeds all season long.
That's Dr. David Powell, along with Rhett Stolte, Weed Science Technical Managers for Growmark Agronomy. We'll continue that discussion in just a little bit. Hey, sell it now, sell it fast with Farm Week classified ads. You can call the toll-free number, 800-573-6120, or submit online at farmweeknow.com. More with the agronomy guys in a minute, and then Jim Bauer and the gang at Bauer Trading later on RFD Today.
More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.
Hi, this is Sabrina Hardy, RFD Business Manager. I want to thank you for listening to the RFD Radio Network, the #1 ad radio network in Illinois. Did you know RFD Radio Network's programming is being broadcast by Rita Frazier and Delosh Yankee with a combined 50 years of broadcasting experience? Join us daily. If you have any questions, email me at chardy@ilfb.org.
Attention corn farmers. Your corn checkoff dollars are working with the U.S. Meat Export Federation to grow red meat export volumes. Because when we're exporting beef, we're also exporting corn. The beef industry consumes 28% of all corn fed to livestock, plus additional corn in the form of DDGs, a co-product of ethanol production. Now that's what we call working an angle. Your checkoff is working corn from all angles. Because of the Illinois Corn Marketing Board, your profitability is our bottom line. A message from the Illinois Corn Checkoff.
Does the warmer weather have you itching for a weekend getaway? Take your Illinois Farm Bureau membership savings with you.
Farm Bureau members can save up to 20% at choice hotels, including favorites like Comfort Suites, Sleep Inn, Quality Inn and Suites, with even more to choose from.
Call 800-258-2847 or visit the Choice Hotels website to search all the hotels at once and to make advance reservations.
Contact your local County Farm Bureau for your discount code number.
It's where your home is built, your landscape is planted, and your children play. Land is all around us, so Illinois farmers have dedicated years to learning how to best care for it. Today, we're bridging modern knowledge with resources from Mother Nature to promote natural soil activity and choosing crops that enhance soil health. To learn more about conservation efforts, visit ilfarmersconserve.com. Preserving our water, protecting our land, providing our food.
This message brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau.
All ag.
All Illinois.
All now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All ag, all Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food.
Farm, family, food. Those three words best describe Illinois Farm Bureau. Farm. For 100 years, Farm Bureau in Illinois has represented and served the men and women who make Illinois one of the top food-producing states. Family. At the heart of rural Illinois are traditional farm families who work together through Illinois Farm Bureau. And food. Farm Bureau families are proud to grow the healthy food they provide their families and yours. Farm, family, food. The heart of Farm Bureau in Illinois.
Welcome back again in studio. We have Dr. David Powell and also Rhett Stolte, Grove Market Agronomy, talking weed science, talking about cover crops and how to make sure that we're ready for 2019. David brought up the notion of starting clean. And that also goes back to what we were talking about before, Rhett, about not going 100% post, is starting clean and staying clean. Now, as we watch us get closer to May, how do we allow time for all those things also without injuring crops in those fields?
Well, the first step, like DeLaw said, was we need to start clean, and same with David. So get that burn down out early. If it does fail, we got time to come back with additional products, but we need to select a pre for whether it be corn or soybeans with multiple effective sites of action. Get that plant off to a healthy start. Keep the fields weed free before coming in later with our post to clean up anything or put that overlaying residual on. But we need to select products that are going to be less injurious to crops. Ultimately, it's a lot of environmental conditions that we can't control, but we need to be very cognizant of that.
And talking about that, we love to have those pre's on early with those multiple sites of action, and we know that's not going to happen 100% of the time, right? And so the key is, in those scenarios where it doesn't happen, we've got to get out there as soon as possible with a product that still has residual, and that may change, right? Some of the pre-products that we can use, we can't use once the soybeans or corn cracks out of the ground, so we have to go to something different. So the key thing is getting that residual on as soon as possible, and that still doesn't mean one shot. That means getting something on now and then coming back later to keep yourself clean the whole season. And that's really key if we're going to have a really good growing season. We know that we're compressed right now. We know the rainfalls are spaced just right now to not let us get in the field. What if that continued to happen all through May? Our weeds in our fields could look really, really large, and we'd be very unhappy. So we need to make sure we get those residuals on.
2013, it was well into May before folks were able to get very much field work done. Last time we had late Easter, 2014, at the last week of April, first week of May is when we really made a lot of planting progress. So, not much time between now and then to get much field work done. And one thing I talked to Dr. Bernards about at Western, you alluded to this as well, just the notion of season-long control, which sounds a whole lot better than, every 4 to 6 weeks, let's try to, Band-Aid this as we go along.
Yeah, so Rhett will be right along here with me, but the best way to get that season-long control is to have a true overlapping residual out there. So we're talking multiple applications, over the season, especially until we can get to crop canopy. Crop canopy is really what we want. My saying is that's free weed control. So let's get there as fast as possible. Let's keep us clean till then, and then it doesn't cost us any additional money going into the season.
Right. Ultimately, here in the north, we don't have a lot of narrow row soybeans, so that's where we're really relying on that overlaying residual to hold us over till crop canopy. But the further south you go, and even some in the western part of the geography, more of the 15-inch soybeans, get that post and that overlaying on earlier, and then crop canopy really holds over, and you come out on top with a clean soybean field.
This could be another year of plan A, B, C, or who knows how many as we continue to make our way through April here.
Yeah, this is the time when we can't be in the field. This is the time to plan. It is the middle of April. I understand it. We're not terribly late yet. We talk about being late just because we didn't get some of the fall activities done that we normally do. We're talking about yields and about putting a crop in. We still need to do everything right to get our maximum yields, and that's still possible. We can get into the first week of May and not have we have minimal to no yield loss in both our corn and soybeans. So we still have a potential of 3 weeks here where if the weather changes, we can get our crop in, our nutrients on, our weed burn downs done, and our crops emerge with. And we'd be sitting just as good as we were last year, or even better potentially. So I know there's a lot of work to get done, and that's why we're all a little hesitant or we're all a little nervous. But today's not a good day to be planting anyway. Looking at our 4-inch bare soil temperatures. There's 3 temperature readings in Illinois that were below 40 degrees, and we only have a few that are above 50. So it's not a good day to plant, even if it were dry today.
What do you guys think, and also thinking about Gromar applicators as well, getting as much done in as narrow time frame as possible, but for dicamba, for example, 2 weeks after planting, 3 weeks, is there a magical time in there? Certainly not waiting until, say, close to 45 days out.
Yeah, I actually like one of the chemical reps had once said, 22 ounces of Extendamax in 22 days. The earlier the better. Get that overlaying residual on. That's less weeds you have to control on the post side. That's less selection pressure you have on those herbicides, as well as that gives you more time for a timely rainfall activating that overlaying residual. So I do like earlier, but not too early. At least 21 days I think is a good time frame to shoot for to get that post on, and then you have some leeway if it does get wet. You do get a rainfall in there that you still have time to get that post and overlaying residual on without having a disaster in the fields.
David Powell and Red Stolte, Growmark Agronomy Weed Science Technical Managers. Guys, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. David Powell and also Red Stolte, Growmark Agronomy Services. Plenty to do, plenty on the to-do list. Saw some pictures of planters rolling, but other places too much water with more rain coming either tonight or tomorrow or both. Stay tuned. We'll talk markets next on RFD Today.
Farm Week and Partners Magazine editor Chris Anderson connects rural routes for you. Chris shares her 4 decades of riding expertise by making sure each edition delivers the best information. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I was raised on a farm in Champaign County growing corn, soybeans, popcorn, pumpkins, and poultry. My top priority is to inform, educate, and even entertain Farm Bureau members.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Warmer weather means a longer honeydew list. Your county Farm Bureau can help you stay on top of your project list and save you money along the way. A Farm Bureau membership offer includes discounts on equipment and supplies from Grainger, plus free shipping on all standard Grainger products. Browse thousands of items from landscaping equipment to power tools. Anything you need to get the job done, Grainger has it. Not a Farm Bureau member? Call us at 309-557-2689 or visit Illinois Farm Bureau online and join today.
Let's check the markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Well, corn is trying to move back to a steady level at the moment. May corn is down just a fraction, 358 3/4. July back to steady, 367 3/4. December down a fraction, 387 1/4. Pretty quiet today in corn, actually. Trading ranges are only around 2 to 2.5 cents. May soybeans down 4, 884. July down 4 1/4, 897 1/2. November down 3 1/2, 917 1/2. May wheat up 4 1/2, 449 1/2. A little bit of bounce back after losing 16 cents yesterday. July wheat up 4 1/2, 453. June hogs down $1.02, 96.10. June cattle at the moment are down 27 cents, 122.17. The Los Yankee RFD Radio Network. Welcome back to RFD Today on a Wednesday. I'm DeLoss Yankee. At this point, we regularly talk to folks at Bauer Trading. Today, Ben Cash is on the phone. I know it starts with a K, but that's just an awfully cool name to be in your kind of work, Ben. How are you today?
Not bad. How you doing today?
Pretty good. So, what in the world yesterday? Well, first of all, wheat has been leading some of this difficulty, and that doesn't seem like something that's, none of that seems like something that's going to remedy itself anytime soon.
Yeah, the stock situation obviously is still weighing over the market. These funds are heavily short the market, and they seem pretty comfortable with their positions right now. We got a great rating for winter wheat compared to last year, 60% good to excellent, compared to 31% last year. So Moisture prospects obviously are a lot better entering the growing season for the central and southern plains. We still got a pretty active rainfall for them, so conditions are going to most likely stay pretty steady for the next 2 weeks. It looks like for winter wheat, and kind of looking at where the funds are sitting on that side of things. You're sitting with 47,000 short on KC wheat. Chicago wheat 54,000, and like I said, they seem pretty comfortable with those positions right now. And we're missing export sales. Europe's been undercutting us as well as Russia, and it's just been a really tough go for the wheat market on any kind of rally here.
So if wheat is going to keep doing what it's doing, then what hope can we have for corn here, do you think?
Well, corn, record short on the fund side of things. Forecast to me looks short term right now pretty positive. If we're comparing planting pace, we're on par with last year. It is really early yet, 3% planted right now, or as of Sunday, and then 3% last year at this time. So majority of the corn goes in the ground April 28th to May 19th. That is the forecast. As we get these extended models, we're going to be looking into May here pretty shortly in the days ahead. And that's going to, gather a lot more importance going forward. But, the prevent plant, it definitely is going to be a lot higher this year, just given the circumstances across Nebraska and then up into the northern plains. They're still dealing with flooding issues in the Red River Valley region there. So, and then their prices aren't all that great. I mean, nobody's is really. Cash basis levels is well below the board right now, especially for new crops. So, these guys that are seeing delays, are definitely thinking, not even to put that crop in the ground. So, for corn, going forward here, obviously the USDA hasn't done us any favors for upside momentum to the market with these large carryouts. 2 billion bushel now is what we got to work through on old crop corn. We're going to carry that into the new crop. So, a lower acreage number will definitely help the corn market out. And I think, we'll most likely see that, that 92.7 million acres. That's the high end. I think we're going to be coming down from there on future reports. But going forward here, if we stay wet into the first part of May, there you definitely got to think the funds are going to start covering these shorts, and there is some substantial upside to these grain markets on the front end, especially if we continue with some wet weather and delayed planting.
So here we are in April. Last year Illinois had 4% of the crop planted going into like the 22nd, 23rd of April, and then 3 weeks later it was 74. So I know we can plant a lot in a hurry. So it would take a while then to realize the extent in Nebraska and the Dakotas just how wet it is. I mean, some of those places I just don't see how they're going to get anything planted. So it'll take a while before, prevent planting will prove what kind of acreage we're to expect. So I mean, this could actually take a while for us, couldn't it?
Yeah, it definitely could. I think we were under 1.5 million acres last year, which was really low, comparatively speaking. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see it above 3 million acres to maybe even, on the high end, testing that 5 million acres of prevent plant, given the price levels. This trade war has gone on for some time now, and those basis levels, for those guys in the northern plains, all that stuff goes out to PNW, to China, to those Asian countries, and if we don't, we got these trade barriers up, there is no market for them, so their cash price is not really telling them, to plant a whole lot or expand their acres, that sort of thing. So, the longer they see delays up there, the more likely we'll, see more prevent plant up there in those areas. So, that's where we see those large, 1 to 2 million acre swings on a given year of, corn to soybeans to wheat. So, those are the swing states, and, we'll most likely see that this year given their weather circumstances.
By the time all that plays itself, I mean, usually it's a spring rally, right? I mean, we're running out of time for a spring rally, aren't we?
No, I think we still have plenty of time here for a spring rally. There's a lot of growing season ahead of us. A lot of, crops still need to be, in the ground. Spring wheat, well, I think 2 to 3% is all that planted. I know they're making some progress now over in the PNW as well as Montana. Pretty limited yet on the eastern side of the Dakotas, but for the most part, it is early yet. But market has definitely taken note of these extended weather models here going forward. Easter Sunday is this weekend, so it's gathering more importance by the day.
All right, Ben Cash at Bauer Trading, and thinking about the soybean market then, which dropped 10 cents yesterday. He's down another 4 cents today, and is it starting to look more and more like corn with just the number of short positions that are out there?
Yeah, definitely. If you're looking at the corn market, the front end of the corn market is definitely where the funds are heavily suppressed here. You got markets. You're looking at May 19 versus May 20 corn. You're at 50 cent carry in the corn market right now. So basically, what that's telling us is the market still wants these corn acres. We still have a really big demand for corn for feed, ethanol, exports. So you're still flirting around those $4 levels for new crop corn. So that's just giving the farmer incentive to go ahead and keep the planter rolling. On the soybean side of things, obviously, we're dealing with one of the largest carryouts we've had in recent memory. Largest since I've worked here. I've been here for 10 years now, so this is the largest carryout we've dealt with in the soybean market since I've been here, and it's really been a tough go. Obviously, the one thing that's been keeping the soybean market afloat is the crush demand here in the U.S. Meal demand has been really good for livestock feed, and that's one thing that has kind of been the saving grace for the soybean market. And obviously, if we get this trade deal hammered out, things are going to be looking a lot brighter across farm country. But right now, it seems like it's exhausted by trade talk headlines here with nothing getting done.
Well, hang on a second. We have a commercial break coming up here, and we'll get more into this conversation. And when we come back from the break, my question will be, if there's so much still to be sold, what kind of rally could we expect if farmer selling would farmer selling be so much to put a damper on it? We actually have a minute left here. I misjudged my time on this, but we could talk about that when we come back. Bauer Trading is based in Lafayette, Indiana. Let me give you the toll-free here while we're waiting, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more markets a little bit later. The toll-free to Bauer Trading is 800-533-8045. 800-533-8045. Last 8 to 14 day weather forecast by the National Weather Service continued to show more than average precipitation. That's starting to take us now to the 1st of May. Better temperatures in the outlook, but still plenty of precipitation to go around. More with Ben Cash at Bauer Trading in just a moment here on RFD Today. Let's check livestock markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Tuesday, Packer Day at Fairview Sale Barn. They had steers and heifers, choice 2 to 4s from 129 to 131.5. Some high-yielding steers and heifers found a top of 134.50, steady with the week before. Holstein choice steers with a top of 94.50. And the slaughter cows, not many high quality. Some of them had a top of 62.5. Illinois Direct Hog Market, $2 higher yesterday from $48 to $56 a hundredweight. That $2 higher was especially on the bottom end, with the low end starting at 48. Sow Market held steady to firm, 40 to 47 for lightweights, 45 to 53 for heavyweights. Light boars with a top of 30, heavyweights with a top of 15. DeLoss Yankee, RFD Radio Network.
How do people benefit from raising livestock here in Illinois? Rich Giebert, Illinois farmer, president of the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Well, growing up on a livestock farm was always interesting, and I enjoy it more today than I did back then. But it did give me the opportunity to have a good work ethic, learn to get up in the morning. And that was difficult during my senior days at high school and college days. I had a tendency not to go to bed at a respectable hour. But no, it was always enjoyable on the farm and getting up before daybreak and milking the cows and getting the chores done and then go about the rest of the day's business.
Illinois Farm Bureau, along with beef, corn, milk, pork, and soybean associations, make up the Livestock Development Group, supporting the Illinois livestock sector. For more information, check out illinoislivestock.org.
All right, welcome back to RFD today on a Wednesday. I'm DeLoss Yankee, Ben Cash at Bauer Trading in Indiana. We talk to these guys in the middle of each month. And so here we have a whole bunch still for sale and a whole lot that hasn't been priced yet this year as well. But if we still have so much old crop to go around, then would that cut into potential rallies whenever they make themselves available?
I mean, you get a larger carry out, and any of these markets, corn, beans, or wheat, we definitely see the rallies, not as large in a typical year. So, the stocks-to-use ratio for soybeans right now, at one of the higher levels that we've seen, definitely in above 10%. We've come quite accustomed to seeing below 10% here the past several years, and that was even with record crops. So, this year is definitely has changed things, but at the same time, if we get a trade deal worked out, there is, room for a substantial rally, and that's the wild card. What kind of trade deal are they going to come up with? Out of the gate, is China going to go ahead and, have to meet a certain quota as far as purchases, that sort of thing. But, one thing that has definitely hurt us is, we were hoping to pick up a lot of business from, Europe, other countries during this whole process, and that just hasn't really come to fruition. It feels like Brazil and Argentina had great growing seasons this year. After last year, Argentina obviously had that drought, and then Brazil with their second crop corn, that heat and dryness that they experienced. So this year, for the most part, it looks like a great year for them down there. Harvest conditions are pretty good. So that's also been hurting the market as well. Just not our exports, but just competition out there globally has definitely affected the soybean market. So as of right now, with the close to a billion bushel carry on soybeans, the rallies are not going to be as large as typically expected, and that we typically see.
There's the saying, say, well, you can sell it now and you can always make it back on the board.
Right? Yeah, that is one thing to look at. Option prices here on the board have really gotten pretty flat for the most part. These markets are somewhat sideways to obviously lower. So call options in these markets just kind of depends how far out you want to go. If you do sell that crop, always that option is out there, and this could be the year that you definitely take advantage of re-owning some. If not all of it, maybe a small percentage of sales that you make. So a lot of guys are been forced to sell their crop to help pay for seed, input costs, that sort of thing, rent. So, re-owning it with a cheap option, may be the thing to do this year. But, that's something you'll have to work out with your broker, your banker, that sort of thing to even look if it, makes sense financially.
Right. Well, we've gone 3.5 months without many opportunities to make it back on the board, but got to believe at some time that will present itself.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, one thing that is adding, to, possibly some substantial upside or some pricing opportunities ahead is just the fund position. I mean, they're holding a winning position down here. We're moving into the heart of our growing season planning. You got to think they want to start to take some profit here eventually. You got the energy markets rebounding, quite a bit. Crude oil, 5-month highs here. Gasoline prices have been improving, so that's definitely friendly going forward. And kind of looking also at the fund position, they're holding a record net long on ethanol, and obviously the RBOB market, gasoline prices going up has helped that. But there's a story to be told here about that. So that's definitely friendly for corn going forward.
Wow. Well, curious to see how this all goes. There's all this talk of uncertainty and economic uncertainty, and we were watching the 3-month and the 10-year for a while and all that sort of thing, but the Dow certainly hasn't. There's plenty of concern around January, what's going to happen to Dow and all that sort of thing. That's been able to hold its own, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. That financial sector, Wall Street in general has been really resilient through this trade war. And commodities obviously took it on the chin throughout all of this, and just to see that the stock market, still continue to chug along, and these economies seem to be doing pretty good here in the U.S. So, I mean, it's been pretty impressive. Labor market's still pretty steady. And then the Federal Reserve coming out, basically keeping rates unchanged has definitely helped the growth prospects and the stability in the stock market going forward. So, all in all here, you're definitely seeing some value in the commodity markets. If we ever get this trade deal worked out, it's definitely supportive, basically across the board for commodities as a whole.
Oh, it's got to happen soon. We heard something about a potential breakthrough or, something in enforcement and that sort of thing. But, boy, how much longer can we wait on that sort of thing? Sooner the better.
Yeah, the longer, this drags on, it's definitely going to be worse to recapture the market share that we lost. I mean, this is pretty similar to the Russian grain embargo. We've seen what that did for Russia. They definitely expanded their wheat plantings and that sort of thing. And, that obviously that's what South America's doing here, too. They're ramping up, their grain production to help, to meet the world demand, as this trade war drags on. So it's going to be harder and harder the longer this drags on to gather that market share back. That's the downside to this, but it seems like we are starting to, come to the table a little bit better. We just got to hammer out some final details is what it sounds like.
All right. Thanks so much, Ben. We appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Ben Cash at Bauer Trading. Bauer Trading Inc. online at BauerTrading.com. And the toll-free is 800-346-5634. It's the point now a company's been around for a while when their toll-free is actually an 800 number. You know what I mean? I'm DeLoss Yankee saying watch your ends. Bill Biederman will be on the program. We'll be in studio tomorrow.
More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.